Exploring Idaho, the monthly adventure showcasing our state's unique people and places, is brought to you by Albertsons, your local Ford dealers, West One Bank, Idaho Department of Commerce, 7 regional travel committees, and KTVB, Channel 7. Let your favorite chair become a front row seat to adventure as we take you exploring Idaho.
Coming up on Exploring Idaho, it's one of the most pristine lakes in America, and it's right here in Idaho. Join us on a trip to Bear Lake Country. Also, pack up the RV as we travel the highways and byways of northeastern Idaho. It's an Island Park road trip. And for years, some people fought to get out of this place. Now people are paying to get in. Take a journey through a prison with a past.
Welcome to Exploring Idaho. I want you to picture this. A lake so blue, it almost doesn't look real. So clear, you can watch the fish swimming below your boat. In this day and age, there aren't many places like that left. But in southeastern Idaho, the folks can tell you about their favorite lake. They call it Unbearleavable. You see, the place is Bear Lake. So hitch up the boat, grab your fishing rod, and head to Idaho's southeastern corner to discover all there is to see and do in Bear Lake Country.
Bear Lake. At 110 square miles, it's one of the largest inland lakes in the West. Look over the side of your boat. The view is crystal clear.
A lot of people have said it looks like the Sea of Galilee. It's got the same colors, and it's got the color of a lot of high glacial lakes that we see in Canada and other places. The water is just so pristine blue, and it changes. It's so dynamic. If you sit above the lake on any day like this when you got a few clouds, you'll see this lake go from a dark blue to a light turquoise and just glisten and sparkle, and it's just a dynamic feature, and it almost looks artificial. It's so blue.
Even though it sits in a valley, Bear Lake is still considered a high mountain lake. The elevation here, 6,000 feet. With all this water, Bear Lake is a giant playground for boaters and jet skiers. Anglers love it too. Bear Lake is home to 4 species of fish found nowhere else in the world, including the Bear Lake cutthroat.
The fishing on Bear Lake at times of the year are absolutely fantastic. You can always be assured of a possibility of catching a record fish here, including the Bear Lake cutthroat, which is only found in these waters. They have been taken to other waters in other states, but here it is only found naturally. There are also lake trout in here that can range up to 25 pounds, 30 pounds. There is always that opportunity to catch that big fish.
But even more than the fishing, most folks simply enjoy the scenery. It's unsurpassed. If you don't believe it, just ask Esther Harrison. She runs a bed and breakfast inn overlooking the lake. During the summer, she spends hours on end in her raspberry patch. Thanks to cool nights and warm days, the raspberries grow like weeds up here. Her guests can get in on the act too, but she says most folks eat more than they pick.
It's incredible. People have to come and see it for themselves, though. After they've once seen it, it sells itself. You don't have to tell them anything about it. But right now, if they haven't seen it, you tell them that it's close to the mountains and close to the lake and all alone, and it's incredibly quiet.
If it's peace and quiet you're looking for, head just a few miles north and you'll find even more at the Minnetonka Cave. Discovered by a hunter in the early 1900s, Today, thousands more are discovering this mammoth cave thanks to Forest Service tours. Workers installed steps and handrails throughout the cave back in the 30s, and later a lighting system was installed. Minnetonka is a high mountain cave. It's a chilly 40 degrees all year round. And what you'll see inside is almost surreal. Thousands of stalagmites rising from the floor and stalactites hanging like icicles from the ceiling.
I like to go through the cave without a tour occasionally and stop, and you can just find all sorts of interesting things. I especially like to stop and look at the fossils that are in here, and there's just formations everywhere. Every time you go through, you see something that you haven't seen before. Also, I like to experience the sounds of the cave when there's not anyone in here. Very interesting, all of the dripping water.
The hour-and-a-half tour is an adventure worth the trip. Caves like this one are far and few between. Just down the highway from the Minnetonka Cave is the town of Paris. Not France, but Paris, Idaho. You won't find an Eiffel Tower in this Paris, but you will find century-old houses and other buildings, most listed on the National Register of Historic Places. A self-guided walking or driving tour of the town gives you a taste of what this area was like at the turn of the century. Throughout Paris, you'll find architectural heritage at its best. The centerpiece is the Paris Tabernacle, built back in 1889. This Romanesque Mormon tabernacle is built of red sandstone that was brought in on snow sleds from a quarry 18 miles away. Despite the heavy Mormon influence during those early days, a few folks took another road. Ever hear of a guy named Butch Cassidy? Well, around here, he's still the talk of the town, even though it's been nearly 100 years since he brandished his pistol at the Bank of Montpelier. A three-man gang led by Cassidy made off with $5,000. Butch Cassidy was never caught. In fact, occasionally, he can still be spotted around Montpelier.
And a Japanese camera, huh? Is that worth anything? Get up here like this.
Thanks to a few local history buffs, the legend of Butch Cassidy is kept alive. After all, he may well be one of the most famous folks to ever pass through these parts. But every year, more and more people are discovering all Bear Lake country has to offer.
And by the way, the fishing on Bear Lake is especially good during the winter. The winter frost begins the yearly spawning run of the Bonneville cisco, another species of fish found only at Bear Lake. We'll be right back.
Up next, the RV's packed and ready to go. We're headed out on an Island Park road trip.
Did you know a part of Yellowstone National Park is in Idaho? It's called Island Park, and before you visit Yellowstone, you really should check it out. Exploring Idaho's David Mills did just that, and David, I understand you found out there's more than meets the eye in Island Park.
Well, Dee, even just driving down the main highway that takes you through Island Park, you could tell there's something special about this place. The pristine waters of the Henry's Fork, the occasional moose by the side of the road, even an excellent view of the Teton Mountains. Now, just imagine if you'd only take a little extra time to really explore this place.
Tucked in the toe of northeastern Idaho, Island Park is a vacation wonderland. And one of the best ways to take advantage of all this area has to offer is to pack up the RV and head down the road. We're on eastern Idaho's Highway 20. It's known as the gateway to Yellowstone. That's because millions of folks travel this road on their way to the national park. But in their haste to get to Old Faithful, they miss out on some real Idaho treasures just off the road. We don't stay on Highway 20 for long. Our journey takes us off on a side road, the Mesa Falls Scenic Byway. The drive takes us past a magnificent view of the Grand Tetons, through forested country, and eventually to Lower Mesa Falls. Here, the waters of the Henry's Fork plunge 65 feet. It's an awesome spectacle of the power behind this usually serene river. But Lower Mesa Falls offers only a taste of what's in store just a mile down the road. The Upper Falls is a place where the locals will travel to time and time again, and it's easy to see why.
It's a very serene place in spite of all the noise from the waterfall, and it's a very exciting, vibrant place at the same time, and very special, very special.
these steps are pretty new. They've only been in for about a year now. How did folks get down here before?
Oh, they used to kind of slip and slide down the trails, coming down through all of the brush and the bushes you see growing here. And now people actually have some steps they can come down, and children can come running down this, so you don't have to worry about them like you used to need to.
A lot safer experience.
Oh yeah, much safer.
Back on the byway, you'll want to keep your eyes peeled for some wildlife. You might see a deer peering through some branches, a moose and calf nestled on the ground, or even an eagle perched atop a tree. Once back on Highway 20, there's another place worth checking into. It's Harriman State Park. Harriman State Park was given to Idaho by the Harriman family, who originally built it as a working ranch and private retreat. You don't have to be a millionaire to enjoy this place anymore. Just look around. It won't be long before you figure out why the Harrimans, who could have built just about anywhere, decided on this place. The Harriman family, who owned Union Pacific Railroad, built this ranch in the early 1900s. It remained in the family for years before being donated to the state of Idaho in the 70s. Although developed as a state park, most of the original flavor of the railroad ranch is still alive.
The impression we were trying to get here is that the Harrimans have just left for the day or are out riding horses or what have you. And so the place is relatively furnished completely with that intent that they still are here.
A guided tour of Harriman's historic buildings offers a rare glimpse into the private lives of one of our country's wealthiest families. This year, 2.5 million people will crowd into Yellowstone National Park. It's just down the road from here. Almost all those folks will drive past Harriman on their way there. But only about 1% will actually stop at this park. What they're missing is a piece of living history. Of course, one of the things that attracted the Harrimans to Island Park and still entices visitors today is the Henry's Fork of the Snake River, world-renowned for its fly fishing. More than half the visitors at Harriman come here to fish. It's an angler's paradise. This is another place you're sure to see wildlife, and if you've ever wanted to see a moose, this is the spot. In just a couple of hours, we spotted 6. Harriman is also a sanctuary for the endangered trumpeter swan. While they mostly winter in this area, a good number spend the entire year here. Of course, one of the greatest things about this RV experience is once you're tired and ready to turn in for the night, well, you've already got your room. All you need is a place to park it. That's where a campground directory like this one comes in handy. It tells you where you can park all over Idaho. There's certainly not a lack of camping sites at Island Park. The biggest problem is choosing where you want to stay. One of the most popular spots for RVers at Island Park is Henry's Lake State Park.
Hello. Come on, fish.
Once you're settled in, grab your fishing rod. At Henry's Lake, folks say the fish practically jump on your hook.
Big old cutthroat. Probably 22, 23 inches.
Visit Island Park and you'll be hooked too. It's a place worth coming back to time and time again. And Dee, I hear the fall fishing on Henry's Lake is great, and this really isn't a bad time to visit the area. The summer vacation season is over. You'll find solitude, not to mention some gorgeous fall colors.
I can attest to that. We visited the area about this time last year. It's gorgeous, so check it out. We'll be right back.
Still to come, we get a close-up look behind prison walls without serving time as we tour a prison with a past.
Welcome back to Exploring Idaho. You can experience prison life without ever spending a day behind bars. Just what you always wanted to do, right? Well, don't be too quick to judge. The Old Idaho Penitentiary, located in Boise, is open to tours. And recently, Dan Holler had the opportunity to take a tour with former inmates and guards.
That's right, Dee. In fact, it really is an intriguing facility, a place you have to see to believe. It's a place where you can literally spend hours wandering through cell block after cell block, wondering what it must have been like to serve time behind bars.
It was kind of spooky of a morning at 7 o'clock, and it's really quiet. It's just a little spooky. When you open those old steel doors and they bang, it sounds pretty final.
It's a place that speaks loudly of days gone by, of a time in Idaho's history when inmates were housed in crude sandstone cell blocks, left to look through lonely steel bars, contemplating life in a cold one-room cell. In 1870, the first territorial prison was built east of Boise. Convicts were not only housed behind the sandstone walls, they helped build them, hauling rock down from nearby hillsides. For more than 100 years, inmates played here, prayed here, but most of all, served hard time here.
The prison has been closed since 1973, when an inmate riot destroyed some of the buildings. But many of the walls still stand, and they hold a lot of memories, especially for the people who used to work here.
People like Chet Stinnett and Frank Rigby.
Remember that cage up there in the corner of the dining hall?
Oh yeah, the gun cage?
I sit up there
gas
with
cage? You bet.
Sit up there with that big tear gas pistol, you know. And
I think we all did, one time or another.
Yeah.
These two former prison guards haven't seen each other since they left the prison 20 years ago. The two men carry with them horror stories about the prison, especially Five House, a cell block with a violent history.
Yeah, that's where I was stabbed at.
You was stabbed there?
Yeah, in Five House on the second floor. They said it looked like they'd butchered the hog in there the next morning, and I imagine it looked the same after you was beat up.
For Frank, it happened upstairs after an inmate sawed through the bars.
Those are not maximum security bars, guys. You can cut through them with Ajax and a string.
They hit me on the head with them iron bars and knocked me silly.
For Chet, it was just as serious. An inmate serving time for murder jumped him with a knife.
And there's the scar of the souvenir I have. It cut the small artery in my left arm, and I almost bled to death before they got me to the hospital.
Today, the beauty of the prison contrasts with the pain once felt here. The Rose Garden is where 6 inmates were executed.
In 1951, a permanent gallows was built. It included a viewing area, and here's how it worked. A noose was tied on the ceiling, and then the executioner would pull this lever, opening the trap door. But it wasn't used too often. In fact, the only hanging to occur in this room happened back in 1957.
I don't know why they call it deadline. I guess you would say that if you get on it, you're dead.
One sure way to get killed was to walk over the deadline. It's a dirt perimeter that runs around the inside of the compound.
If you didn't get off on it pretty doggone quick, the officer would fire.
Yes, prison life was tough, especially for the men who spent time in Siberia.
Was it tough to put prisoners in solitary confinement?
Tough? Didn't bother me any.
This is where inmates slept on concrete floors in unheated cells.
We used to feed these guys in here bread and water 6 days a week. And then on Sunday, we'd give them toppings. We'd give them the best. They'd get dessert and good food and everything on Sunday, but they'd get bread and water the rest of the time.
It's a tough life.
Well, they bring it on themselves.
Out of the first 6 years I spent in this prison, I spent 4.5 years in the hole in Siberia in Five House.
This former inmate knows prison life from the other side of the bars, but his memories aren't about his pain, rather the pain felt by fellow inmates.
I've seen 3 or 4 people killed in this prison. I've seen a lot of beatings in this prison, and I've seen a lot of misery in this prison. But then I've also seen a lot of happy times here, too.
What happy times there were came when inmates were allowed some independence, like being able to grow the food they ate. Joe Munch was chief of security then.
Everything was self-supporting, clothing, bread, everything. The state of Idaho got money from the prison. They didn't put in money.
Here's an example of just how self-sufficient this prison was. We're standing in the laundry room. This is where inmates were put to work, making sure their uniforms were clean. And as you can tell, not much has changed. It's pretty much like it was when the prison was alive.
Nearby buildings have not aged as gracefully. The 1973 inmate riot destroyed the dining hall, gutted many of the cell blocks, and left an eerie mosaic of peeling paint.
I think that's probably the one thing that all of us keep saying is, this is really creepy. You know, you really get the feeling of what it must have been like. It's very dark, and looking at the solitary confinement and stuff, you sure wouldn't want to be there. I mean, that would be enough to straighten me out.
The lack of freedom here serves to remind you how valuable yours is. It's a dark, intimidating place where time moves slowly and where you realize it's better to be on the outside, looking in.
It's cold and lonely. You just open that door and walk in, and it's a little eerie. You get goosebumps on your back of your neck.
That's eerie.
Really is. Eerie, but educational as well. Tours are offered all year round.
Thank you very much, Dan. If you'd like more information on the penitentiary or any of the places you've seen on Exploring Idaho today, call the Idaho Travel Council at 1-800-635-7820. We'll be right back. The next time you're in eastern Idaho, be sure to take a drive over to Palisades Reservoir. It's about 40 miles east of Idaho Falls. Now, your drive will take you along the Snake River through the scenic Swan Falls area and then on to Palisades Dam and Reservoir. It's a large, pristine reservoir stretching 14 miles to the Wyoming border. There's plenty of room for boating, and the fishing is excellent. If you have an RV or prefer to camp out, there's lots of places to stay on or around Palisades Reservoir. But wherever you stay, make sure you get up early enough for the spectacular sunrise on Palisades. I hope that inspires you to get out and explore Idaho for yourself. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next month.